Hello, and welcome to episode 159 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner, myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how are we doing
We're
today?
fine, Baruch Hashem. We're so excited to have Adam Israel with us, up-and-coming graduate of Boston University. What are you, the treasurer, the vice president? What are you?
Chabad, vice president.
Vice president of Chabad West. What do you call yourselves even?
What do we call ourselves? E-board?
No, what's the name of the group?
Chabad. BU
BU
Chabad.
Chabad. It's called BU Chabad. We never called it BU Chabad. It was called Chabad Jewish Student Organization.
That probably is still what it's called, but nobody knows.
Oh, the official name there. I don't think
It's young enough that you can name it whatever you want.
because like there was like noise from the school. They don't want to use you can't use their logo, but use their name. That was back in those days. So I'm going to give you since you're graduating, you have a job?
I do have a job, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is it? Accounting?
It is, yeah. So I'm studying accounting, so
You got a job in it.
yeah, exactly.
Alert the press. A guy went to college, studied a subject, and now got a job doing what he studied. Like it's very rare. Anyway, except for the lawyers. Oh, I'm a lawyer. Oh man. But another. So where is it in Boston, New York?
No, it's in Connecticut where I live. So
it's a big company.
Yeah, it's a pretty big company. So they got offices
all over the
pretty
place.
much all over the world.
So you interviewed for that specific company where they were in Connecticut, in Stanford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Stanford.
Wow, it's amazing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's exciting for sure.
Okay, so we're gonna start here with a little Rebbe story, and so this you can see the video. You can see it, like the Rebbe sitting at his table. It must have been one of those, like when they would have it was called the Machni Shol Foundation. It was the Rebbe's idea. It started, I don't know, late 80s maybe. I'm not exactly sure, mid to late 80s. That they should establish a group of philanthropists that will give a set amount. I think it started $1 million each, and then it went to 500,000, something like that. I don't remember the numbers exactly. I don't deal with people like that. I deal with the regular guys like you. Maybe one day you'll be a millionaire. I say, oh, I have a friend who's a millionaire. Like, it's nothing. You have a friend who's a billionaire. Maybe that too. Maybe Seth will be the billionaire. You'll be the millionaire. You can argue it out. Anyway, so they would, and twice a year, the Rebbe would speak to him before Rosh Hashanah, and I guess before Pesach. They would downstairs in 770, like they would create a space, and every and the shluchim would come as well also. So it'd be like, I don't know, 200 people, 300 people, and then afterwards they would each have a turn to come up to talk to the Rebbe personally, and they would, the Rebbe would give them $1, obviously, to give to tzedakah, but then they would have an opportunity to ask questions to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe first would address them as a group, and then they can come and ask questions. And they would talk about how they can have an influence, whatever, different things that were connected to whatever the holiday was. And each one was able to come up and ask questions. And there's a lot of videos from those, because people are asking very, business type questions, personal questions. And so this one guy comes, and you could see that the way he has a beard and a hat, black hat, but he's not like a Lubavitcher. You can just, he doesn't dress like a Lubavitcher. I don't know who he was. And he says to the Rebbe in Yiddish, they're talking Yiddish, that he says, I've invested a lot of money into this new business, this business, and I'm losing money. And so the Rebbe says to him, start giving more tzedakah. Now, you think that's the last thing you suggest? I'm losing money in my business. You know what you need to do? You need to give more tzedakah. And then as you give more tzedakah, you'll open up a new channel for success. In other words, like Hashem, it's a channel for Hashem's bracha. And the guy, he doesn't say anything. Like he's sitting, he's leaning over. He hears the Rebbe saying that, and that's like, can expect to, bracha, whatever. And Rebbe told him, open up a new channel. So I think that's a good thing to think about as you start to work. That and the bracha for your livelihood comes from the mitzvahs that you do connected to it, and that's this is not a fundraising thing, but 10% of your earnings go to tzedakah. I want to tell you something. The most enjoyment you'll have from money that you earn is giving it to tzedakah, wherever you give it to. Obviously Chabad, but wherever you give it to, that feeling of being that when people ask for money and you're able to actually give them, it's a tremendous thing. First of all, it's a mitzvah, and you're helping whatever organization or specific people, whatever it is. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's the best thing you can do. There's a story, one of these medieval stories where the king had a Jewish advisor, and the other non-Jews were giving him a hard. They were saying he's a bad guy, blah blah blah, and so they said, okay, he's stealing money. So he said, bring in an account of all the money that's yours. And he brings in an account, and they do the thing. He says, that's ridiculous. It's a percent of what you really have. And he says, you don't understand. I have a lot of physical belongings, but are they mine? Today they're mine. Tomorrow someone could take them. I want to have them more. I gave you a list of all the tzedakah that I give. That's mine. Okay, so the world should, I was rushing because I came back from Ma'ariv. Somebody rang the doorbell, and I rushed to put on my sweater because David Sildorf, one of our listeners in California, made fun of my sweater last week. He wasn't really making fun. He just mentioned, is that the same sweater you were wearing when I went to BU, 25, 30 years ago? The answer is yes and no. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty much a descendant of the old. So tell us a little about where you grew up, and that's the trajectory of your life till now, and then the next layer is the trajectory of your Jew life.
Okay. Yeah. So my name's Adam. I'm from Stamford, Connecticut, and the trajectory of my life. Well, my preschool, if I want to start really in preschool, was through the Chabad in Stamford. And so immediately from day one, already involved in the Chabad there through education as well. And then I went to a Jewish day school from kindergarten to 8th grade. And then from there went to high school in Stamford, a public school. And then college, I went to University of Connecticut, and then after a year transferred to BU, where I've met RSP and everyone else at Chabad.
That answered the question that I had. I had one question, and that answered it.
What was
so
the
I was
question?
like, where was he? Well, because you said you grew up going to Chabad school, and I was like, I did the math on it, and I was like, my senior year would have been your freshman year. So I was like, how have I never met you before?
Just missed you. We know it. Yeah. We know everybody that we know, but we don't know each other. And yeah, so that's pretty much my education / where I've been. My family is from South Africa, and in Stamford there's a pretty big population of Jewish South Africans, and there's a weird thing with Jewish South Africans where they're not incredibly religious, but they identify themselves with Chabad always, and so that's why we're always.
Did your parents know Chabad from South Africa?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I guess yeah. I think South Africa is a little similar to England, where they're in general traditional people, and Chabad is well established in South Africa. Okay, so and so you immediately let's full disclosure. Your brother had gone to Berkeley, so we were connected. We used to table together. I spent a lot of time. They had a lot of quality time together.
Yes,
we used to table at Berkeley. Yeah, he was, and he just walked in I think Rosh Hashanah was the first time he came. I didn't even know who he was. I'm okay, and I figured I'll never see him again, one of these Rosh Hashanah Jews. But no, he came back.
Oh, so I think what's the story? My mom and him. My mom was like, let's go find the Chabad. Let's go find the Chabad, and that's it.
That's how it happened.
That's how most interactions, I'm sure, of all your years you've been here, that's how most interactions come. The parents drag the kid, and then how often do you see them again?
But that is a very interesting question. And the truth of the matter is that those kids that their parents bring them, usually it ends up being a long term relationship. It does, and there what on occasion when this doesn't happen often enough, where the kid gets really into it, and the parent is like upset, and like, lady, Mister, you brought your kid here. Word for my life. Here's one outstanding case where like a girl came and she became a full-fledged Lubavitcher, and her father was so angry. He should look. In his later, eventually, years later, he became very involved in Chabad where he was, and I think all was forgiven. But he was so angry that when he would come visit her and they would take a walk, he would go to the other side of Commonwealth Avenue. He would walk by the Chabad house. He ended up becoming the president of the local shul in his town. But anyway, that was like the thing, and I'm like, I don't know. Your wife brought her here. So now that, and I tell parents that's the thing to do. This drag, and there's another case. I'm just thinking about outstanding cases where a guy came with his father, Shabbos morning. Now Friday night is one thing. Shabbos morning, that's the hardcore. And the kid's there. I'm looking at this kid. I'm saying, I'm never going to see this kid again. I can just tell how not involved he was in davening. He just wasn't there. And his father was like into it. I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. It's not happening. But because he was there for that Shabbos, I knew him. I got to know him. And I was right. He was not into shul coming or anything like that. It took a couple of years. And today, he's fully Shomer Shabbos, he's a full-fledged. I'm not saying it's all because of what happened in the Chabad, but it took a couple of years, and then he became integrated. He became part of the crew. He's a regular, and we stayed in touch and all that. And yeah, it worked out. And that was because his father dragged him, even though he didn't want to be here. So that is a good move. Your parents listen to this. I don't want to do all the talking. You're supposed to be talking. But any parent that ever says to me, like, look what you did to my kids, let me tell you something. There's, let's say, 2,000 Jewish kids at BU, right? What percent of them come to Chabad? From the percent that comes to Chabad, how many are get seriously involved in Yiddishkeit? Your kid was one of those minority of the minority of the minority. You're blaming me? If it was up to me, there'd be 100 kids that don't come, and 1,900 of them would be all Lubavitcher. So obviously, it's your fault, not mine. It's something you did, and that's the way it is. That's the truth. The parent. This is it. You raise your kids to be, have a good experience. You send them to school. I don't think public high school is a good idea. But the first 8 years being in yeshiva or a Jewish day school, you come, and it's supported at home. That's the way to do it. Very good. Baruch Hashem. So, what did you find? First of all, differences between that school in Connecticut and BU. That's one question, and then a general overview of Jewish life at BU.
That's a good question. The differences between UConn and BU, the big ones, the ones that made me want to transfer, is the location, is the campus. I didn't know that I wanted to be in a city or not enclosed, or go to a kosher restaurant that isn't owned by the university, or go to a grocery stores that other locals can also go at. So I didn't realize that that's what I was missing when I was at UConn until I did. So Boston is definitely, it's a great city, but it's a city as opposed to Storrs, Connecticut, is where UConn was. The Chabad Rabbi Hecht there, him and his wife called Storrs Snores, which I found was pretty funny. After the first semester there, I understood why. But no, it was a great school. It just wasn't locationally, and what wasn't right. So I come to BU, and we talked about parents dragging their kids to Chabad. I think my family took it a step further with my brother taking me to Chabad. And so Yeah, so we come to you, and that was the beginning of the Jewish continuation of learning in college, and it took an even bigger step forward when Yisrael and Zelda came, um, and they started the Chabad in West Campus, and that's when it was definitely present when it was just me and the other students who would come to make the trek all the way into Kenmore if you didn't live there for a Friday night or a Saturday morning. But now it's bringing in a lot more people, a lot more students who don't know what it means to have a Jewish community, don't know what it means how it feels to have a Shabbat together and things like that. And, I've seen it firsthand of students who come in for the first time. They don't know, they never tried challah bread. They don't know anything about what it means to be in a Jewish community and surrounded by people like yourself. And yeah, so that's definitely the biggest thing, and I give a lot of credit, all the credit to Yisrael and Zelda for definitely starting something. And it's just the beginning. They're only 2 years in, and it's incredible what they've built.
It's popping. So, Seth, you know when the idea came to invite Adam on, because we were talking about him, and I said, did we ever have him on? And so I asked him after. He says no, and that we were talking then because at Marmon at the Marathon Monday barbecue. So there's a picture, like there was at one point there was like 4 or 5 guys or something that were wanted to put on tefillin at once. And so Adam grabbed the pair and was wrapping tefillin with somebody. And to me, that's Mashiach. That's when that happens. Note to the watchers, that was not planned. People didn't think we all.
And for the listeners, he's wearing a kippah that says Mashiach energy on it.
But the Rebbe always says when you light the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash, it says Ba'alosas Hanes, when you light up the menorah. What's light up mean? That means you should light it until the flame of the wick of the oil goes up. And the 7-branch menorah is representative in one of the prophets as the Jewish people, like a 7-branch menorah, because 7 branches are 7 different sort of paths to serve Hashem, different attributes. So, and the Rebbe says that's how you have to light up another Jew, right? Because in essence, the soul is there. You just have to ignite it, bring the light, like the famous thing that were called lamplighters. A chassid is a lamplighter. You have street lights. Used to be just canisters of oil, fuel, and then you have to go. Somebody has to go and light them. That's a Jew. Every Jew has a full container of godly oil, fuel. Someone has to ignite it. So that's the thing. So to what degree? To the degree that the flame goes up on its own, like it's an independent, it can go and light something else. And I'll always remember that. It's just such a powerful, the visual of that. Just, I was there, Mendy was there wrapping tefillin, and then Adam's there wrapping tefillin on whatever, some other student. That's fantastic. That's great. Yeah. I tell them when, talk to our mitzvah boys, I say, look, this is your weapon to bring Mashiach. You have your own tefillin. You can go out and go, like you see sometimes some kid will come bar mitzvah and the father is a shliach somewhere, and he gets his film the first day, his bar mitzvah, he goes and he wraps film with somebody else. So it's not just for himself. Yeah. So here's the question everybody wants to know. Anti-Semitism on campus. Or that's a specific question. How comfortable were you as a Jew at BU? And then I have follow-up questions.
Okay. That's a good question. I mean, obviously, a couple of years ago when October 7th happened, it was a different story, where protests and people going into the GSU and wearing full black and laying down, having a nap of some sorts. And then, fast forward years up until now, it's definitely obviously died down as people have been focusing their attention spans on other things. But throughout that, I never really felt like some other students, maybe at like Harvard or other Columbia, like may have felt. I've never experienced any personal, explicit like anti-Semitism. I guess if I have, I don't know about it. But yeah, no, it's I'm very fortunate. I mean, I guess I don't want to say I'm fortunate because like why would we want that? But yeah, no, I've never really experienced that. Now, my name is, see, Seth Hellman has his full name. RSP did mine. I'm just Adam, but my last name is Israel. And so it's funny, like in Questrom School of Business, for each class we're given like a tent card with our full name. You know what? I actually have it. I'll put it for our viewers.
Oh wow, Adam
Okay.
Israel. Yeah, Adam
Sorry.
from Israel. So it looks like the country.
That I was gonna say, yeah, because it's not as not as big and it isn't bold. It looks like it's Adam from Israel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're given that for each class. We're told to put it out, and I'm like, for the 3 years I've been here, for every new class I have, I put it out and I just do a little scan. You know, who's looking at me, who's reading it and giving me a look. It's never really anybody, but you know, it's just in the back of my mind. I'm aware of it, of course. It carries a lot of weight, but to me, I think it's very powerful, actually. But yeah, no, I've never really experienced, thankfully, any real anti-Semitism here.
How's about like in classes, both the things that professor may say or things that students say? Anything that you found particularly irksome?
Like, no, honestly, nothing comes to mind. At least if it did happen, then it wasn't significant enough for me to remember it. But I think, at least with the classes that I'm in, I don't know, there's a mutual respect. If you're seeming as a decent person, then there's no need to go into specifics or give microaggressions of some sort. But I'm sure that they think of it, but I know I really haven't experienced any.
Wow, that's fantastic. And other people you talk to, or anything like, even going back to 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you know, when it first happened with after Simchas Torah, like when there was a lot of upheaval and
Yeah, I think that, I don't know. It all comes down to, you know, who you surround yourself with. I didn't really, obviously, not even intentionally. I just didn't, not gravitating to the people who would have anything negative to say to me or to the people I surround myself with. But the people that would speak out around me the most were the Jews, and obviously we know what they're speaking out against. But it's that's really what I would be hearing the most. The people in BUSI and Hillel and Chabad and that kind of stuff. Those guys would be the real voice that you would hear for things that are people don't believe in, and many students here, of course, advocate against and so yeah.
against,
like any wars or any decisions made by either country or in general, being what it means to be Zionist, and misconceptions that people have.
so a lot of pro-Israel type stuff.
Lots of, yeah, of course, through the Jewish students here who are through and through passionate about that. Yeah.
So it seems that you're saying to me, when somebody comes and says, the advice you would give to parents that was worrying about my kids and anti-Semitism is like, just find other Jews that are like-minded and you'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
If I were to even guess, honestly, even if they didn't do that, which they should, even if they didn't, they'll still be fine. So to any prospective parents, students, I really don't believe it's a worry, at least at BU.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything going on at all. Like it's forgotten. It doesn't exist.
It's quiet. Yeah.
I don't think any.
There were a couple of small things when I was there, but never anything
Yeah,
big.
the little
you know,
things.
like they had the
I mean,
Yeah.
I've said this dozens of times. I love when that lie down protest in the GSU was fantastic.
Rabbi got kicked out. Rabbi got kicked out. Remember that one? You just went to go rap outside or something.
that was the stupidest thing. But not, you know what happened then? I was
Yeah, you went to go like take a phone call
no,
outside
no,
or
no.
just leave for a
John
second.
Batalingo, the assistant dean of students, was there. And I was really upset why the university was allowing them to have this lie down in the middle of the student union, blocking everything. And it was so noisy, I couldn't talk to him. So I said, let's go outside and talk. And I was very animated, not crazy animated, but I wasn't calm. I was angry. I was upset. And I knew it wasn't his fault, but I was upset. And so I think people inside the GSU saw that we walked out, and there I am being very agitated. They made up the back. They decided the story was that he threw me out, but it wasn't that. I told him, let's go outside and talk. This misconception is interesting, but that was the first time in my BU experience that students came over to me and said, I want a wrapped fill-in, and kids who never did it. It wasn't like my normal. I had a list of people that would. Not a list, but there's a group of people. You meet them every time I saw them. Let's rap. But these were kids that never came over to rap, and now, I never asked them, and they wanted to rap. There was this desire to connect. So, to me, the protests were fine. I had no problem with that. I mean, obviously I did, but a lot of good came out of it. But yeah, I think the nature of students at BU, I know of other schools too, they don't want to be bothered with anything. Just, I want to do my schoolwork. I want to have a good time. I don't want to. I'm not going to solve the world's problems. I don't really care about them. And it was only then that outsiders. Was the last protest I saw in front of GSU was total outsiders. No, there's no BU students even. They had their group, the Palestinian group itself. Even them, they're lame. They didn't make a racket. They didn't do anything terrible. They just sat there, and it pissed off the Jewish kids to see them giving out these information that's total disinformation. So basically, for your Judaism, did it increase at BU, decrease, or stay the same?
Oh, definitely increase.
Huh?
Definitely increase. Yeah, rapping to fill in wasn't something that I did really ever, even at, well, I did at UConn, but never outside of the Chabad house. And certainly not in high school. But now it's very easy to rap to fill in here. I mean, you either have your own pair, or you can go to Kenmore in East, or you can go to West, or you can find Yisro who'll drive to you, and you can ref to fill in. And so that's just one aspect of how my Judaism increased. Obviously, I think that, I don't know, for me personally, like, the religious aspect of Judaism increases with the community that you have. You build each other up, and you encourage each other to go to, let's go half an hour early to get Friday night services. Let's meet for Shabbos lunch, and for praying in the Saturday morning. Let's learn on a Sunday morning and eat bagels, that kind of stuff. So I think it's much easier to increase your Moshiach energy when you have people around you who want to try the same thing.
Amazing. Now, what's the transition going to look like when you're going to move back home?
Yeah, I'm gonna live and work at home for a bit, and
See what
then,
happens.
and yeah, that for now, yeah.
So you'll be back. You can go to shul every Shabbos, and you'll have a support system. I mean, obviously your family, but it's outside of that.
Yeah.
Is there a support system there? Are there other YJPs, young Jewish professionals?
There are, yeah. So we have a lot of family friends in the same boat. They go to college, they get involved with Chabad, and then they move back to the area. And thankfully, we have a great Chabad there too. It's just not entirely our age demographic, and so I predict that in the coming years, you're going to have a lot of college people come back, and there's going to be a little bit of a spike in that presence. But yeah, no, we're still pretty close with them, and no issue going at all.
So there's no dedicated like young Jewish professional branch of Chabad in Stanford?
There probably is, honestly. I just don't know it. I'm not there yet, but
When do you think you're going to get married?
when I get married. I
You
don't
know
know.
how it
That's
was. We said it with a
crazy
straight
jump.
face.
We're skipping Gabe here, RSP. Gabe, when are you gonna get married?
Look, the next question is, how many weeks are you going to go to yeshiva before you start working? So with Seth, he's beyond that already. No, but seriously, you're so close to New York, and there's a popping, Chabad Jewish professionals. Crown Heights is a hop, skip, and a jump away. Rebbe's oil, all that. So that's really something to take advantage of. It's fantastic. There's a lot.
Now, if you told me that maybe last year, I would have just smiled and nod, as many students do. But we went on Pigisha in the fall, and seeing it with your own eyes, going to the oil for the first time, going to Crown Heights, and being there on Shabbos, it's definitely something that makes me want to do it. I mean,
they do have a Shabbaton for young
for
professionals.
Yeah.
Most of them are probably a little bit older than you, but what the heck?
Yeah.
You'll take a bunch of your friends and you'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So I think this is not like an interview, and I'm telling them what to do. Is that bad, Seth?
No.
I think what you should do is
that's what makes you so endearing, Rabbi, is that we always know what you want us to do. There's no beating around the bush here.
take a leadership position. In other words, like start, initiate things and get things going. It could be, and again, I don't know how people's mind work about going into Manhattan, but like there's some really successful and really popping. While we're at it, so here's a plug. The end of July, we're going to have a reunion type thing in Manhattan, just so for alumni, and you'll be considered an alumni by then. You're invited. But yeah, to join what's going on in Manhattan sometimes is to come, if they have some, big program or something. But I think also locally to you sit down with the shliach there and say, hey, we got to get these guys together. You get 10, 15 guys together, do a Sunday brunch. I don't want to, extend anything from anybody else, but, maybe even invite Yisrael for, one, to come, it's not that far from him either. But I think have something there, have a dedicated thing there. And the same thing that you're talking about, getting guys to go to shul, that's not like we're here to get you to support each other. Because this is what happens. And I'm going to talk about this next Shabbos. What happens is, so you, Baruch Hashem, it worked. You want to talk about a success story. I mean, obviously it comes in many different forms. But here's somebody who, this is actually, the trajectory was easy. You went to Chabad in preschool with Mora Aviva, my cousin. Seth looks a little surprised how I know who runs the preschool in Stanford. So
I'm just more surprised that you remember the name of a cousin.
Right, because she's like the oldest one, one of my oldest cousins.
Adam, have you heard this story about him forgetting? So when I went on Pagisha, RSP's showing us around. We're going into, was this when we were going to see your father?
Yes.
We walk into the building, and there's this kid, right, that comes up to RSP and starts talking to him. RSP has no idea who this kid is, completely forgets who the kid is. He was literally at the kid's bar mitzvah a week before or 2 weeks before and completely forgot about him.
Yeah, I've never heard that story, but I believe it.
Oh, great. Both of you are fired. So here's the thing. So you and Seth, you both had similar experiences with Chabad. Came part of it, rose up in the ranks of, the chevra, the pillars of the Chabad house. Then you move on to the next stage. And there, you walk in there and in Sabbath, it doesn't really exist. or they'll end up going to a Chabad house in some other city. And Manhattan is a classic example. And it's very different. First of all, you're walking in as a new graduate, and the majority of people there didn't just graduate. The majority of people are young Jewish professionals. They could be out of school. They could have been to graduate school. They could be, 5, 6, 7, 8 years out. So it's an older crowd. They're more established. It's like a whole different vibe. And just, it's not the same. I don't know if you realize what you guys do. You go to Yisrael's house and you sit there for like hours and hours and hours, which is what used to happen here at this Chabad. Friday night, I would stagger up the stairs like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, who knows? Or the classic was the Farbrengen's over when the rabbi's head hits the table. And now these days it happens earlier than then. But and that was the classic Chabad is like that. And we used to have, our motto was, where a house is your home, a Chabad house home, and they'll play on that. And it's a beautiful thing. It's great. It's fantastic, and that's what they're there for. To live, like you said, when they first come, it's not just the chevra. It's like seeing a Jewish home. Like, what do some of these students know about a father, a mother, and children around the Shabbos table? Like, oh, that's what Shabbos is all about, and the whole atmosphere. Then when you move on to that next stage, the more professional stage, and it's not exactly like that. They charge you for a Friday night dinner, like. Charge them. What are you talking about? And it's a new group, and it's not everybody comes from the same school. It's a different experience, and people will say, there's nothing like the Chabad house. And I say, on one hand it's a compliment, on the other hand it's the most disappointing thing I could hear. I don't want to hear that. I want you to say it's fantastic, and I found a new home. And we're popping there. We're making things happen. I feel so comfortable there. And too many kids say that, like, it's not the same. I don't want to go. It's not supposed to be the same. You're supposed to be grown up now, and it's a different atmosphere. But still, they're not going to invite you to your house. It's Manhattan. Their houses are like chicken coops, whatever. It's just not the same thing. Most people are, when you're 27 years old, you don't want to go hang out in a rabbi's house all the time. You want to have your programs, this and that, go to your apartment and be a professional. Anyway, so that's the thing. So I'm saying is, when you got the soul of it, you got to find the soul of it. The wrappings of it will be a little bit different, but that's fine. That's expected. And at some point, you get married, you become a family. That's a new stage. Every stage of life, you have to reconfigure what your Jewish connection will be, what your Chabad connection will be. Get it? This can go on. This Pos-cast can go on for another 3 hours. It's just a big upbringing, interview, ask you questions, All right, this is very good. That's very good, very good. I think there's a beauty to the Rebbe's vision coming. The Rebbe's vision was like the Rebbe had like his top assistant. He would say when you go, and this goes back decades and decades ago. You go say, what's my responsibility when I go as a shliach to this city? His answer was the Judaism of the city. And what does that mean? He says whatever is needed, you have to provide it. Sometimes they like, we're here for like students. Like, well, you're here for Jews. You're here for Jews. If a Jew comes by, you need something, you help them. And then now it's going more comprehensively, like just Chabad on campus. Well, primarily we're dealing with students. We used to be in those days, you did everything that had to be done. So, but to see now that we have a compartmentalized, and you went, so you start off in the preschool, and then came to when you, and along the, and then you met. You stayed with the community later on, come to, the Chabad house on campus served you wonderfully. And so hopefully that the next stage of your life will also find a Chabad component to continue to increase and to deepen the relationship with Hashem, with the Rebbe, with Chassidus, with all good stuff. All right. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like so nice to see that, like going through the steps and Chabad being there to to provide the inspiration and the opportunity. All right. And Lag Bomer was it yesterday? Powerful day. Today is already 35. Today was 34. So last year, yeah, that was Lag Bomer was one of the few times that, like, publicly, there's a teaching in Chabad that the second Lubavitcher Rebbe would called Lag Bomer like the holiday of all holidays, and the Chassidim would wait a whole year for it because he would go into the field, they would take refreshments, the Rebbe would drink, say, l'chaim, which he wasn't supposed to because of his health, and they saw revealed miracles, especially in the realm of children. And the same thing, the Lag Bomer, they would go to the Rebbe and ask for brachas, and people literally got. You never saw this, just people approaching the Rebbe asking for blessings, in this case for children, and you hear stories later on that it really worked, and it's such an exciting and powerful time. Even though it's such a minor holiday, but it's so because of that, it's so powerful, it's so deep, it's so mystical. And this reading today, the Rebbe said at one time, those that didn't catch the energy of Lag Bomer, the Shabbos afterwards, you can make it up. It's still there. So yeah, tap into that amazing energy, and it says that Rabbi Shimon Yochai in his life wasn't missing Mashiach because he was Mashiach energy in reality. Even though, as the Rebbe says, he had a dreadful life, 12 years in a cave. Yeah, we stole it. He became very spiritual there, but what the heck? That's Mashiach sitting in a cave. And yeah, even in spite of that, he carried that light of Hashem, of revealed godliness that the exile didn't exist in his reality. It says that when a rainbow comes, the rainbow, Hashem brought the flood, and then afterwards brought the rainbow. So when you see a rainbow, it means that the world deserves to have a flood. And in the times of Rabbi Shimon Yochai, his whole life, no rainbows. There's no rainbows. That means that he affected the world with that positivity. And the Rebbe's are Rabbi Shimon Yochai of our generation, and that's what the Rebbe, like I said, that's what the Rebbe inspired. Everybody's a shliach. Everybody's has a mission to bring Judaism to them into their own personal life and to the people around them. And that's how we're going to end this nasty gullus and welcome in Mashiach, not energy, but actual.
Amen. With that, thank you so much for listening to episode 159 of the Pos-cast, Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We will see you next week.